Okay, folks. Just give us a hot second here to get populated. Okay, give me a second. Send the links out to KeepItTechie and VA. Uh-oh. I don't know why YouTube is running so slow tonight, y'all. But we're going to make it happen one way or another. Hey, B, I sent you the link. Check your email, brother man. Second here. I don't know why YouTube is running so slow. There it is. Finally give me my notification. Okay. What's up, y'all? What's up, Macadon? Edward Bailey? Just waiting on email been sent, bruh. Folks, I'm gonna let y'all gonna get some people that are much smarter than me. Did not ring the notification either. Now, hey, KeepItTechie. I check your email, bruh. I sent it to you. I sent it out. What's up, Zach? Y'all know they don't want the smart guys to get together. You know that, right? They don't want the smarty-arties. They don't want the smarty-arties doing smarty-arty stuff. But as long, hey, how's the audio? If y'all can hear me, press 1, please. Somebody press the number 1 if you can hear me. Okay, Zach can hear me. That's good. That's good. Okay. Boss man.
Hey, good evening. How's it going?
Oh, it's going fine, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
That's great, man. How's the weather up there? Oh, and there's KeepItTechie. Let me add him in
Sucks,
too.
Man. Whole bunch of ice. Well, not that much ice and snow, and Instacart isn't delivering for another 2 days, even though the roads are bone dry. But don't know how that works. But hey, it is what it is.
Wow, man. But that's And I was watching it on the news, showing that it had just kind of like came out the blue. But can you hear us? Keep it techie, Josh.
Oh yeah, I can hear. What's up? What's up?
How you doing, bruh?
Oh, hanging in there, hanging in there.
Shoot, man, I'm glad I got two of the smartest brothers out here.
I wouldn't say that. I try though. Lifelong learner. That's all you can do is just continue to learn.
Yeah, I know, and I'm a modest guy too, but every now and again I will pick up a horn and give it a good blow. Yep. You know what he say? Sometimes you got to blow your horn.
Yep.
Just to let everybody know. The old joke that I'm a bull too. Bruh, I already told the people like last time, because people be asking me stuff, and I hope the ones that be asking me stuff stick their head in here, because they be asking me stuff, of course, that I can't answer. You know what I mean?
No.
And
full disclosure,
go ahead.
I try to keep ahead of the curve when it comes to enterprise technology, mainly networking, server management, some scripting, a little bit of development. But when it comes to personal technology, let's just say I don't keep up with that. If I could,
I understand.
To, use Windows XP if I could, but it is what it is.
And I understand that completely, but it's a lot of stuff that how would we say, it seems kind of passe to us, but to other people it's like a giant nugget of information, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
But anyway, so I don't take up too much of y'all time. BA, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people that may not know you, and tell us whatever you want to tell us.
Basically, I'm just a YouTube person that's an observer. I don't have a channel or anything like that where I upload content. I've thought about it, but time doesn't permit that. As far as my professional background, I have approximately 21 years of experience in IT. Before that, briefly, I was an accountant. Got a degree in that, but after a year or two, I came to realization I don't even like accounting. So I moved on to tech. Started off as a systems administrator, then moved up to systems engineering. I've done tech support. I've grabbed stuff off the shelf, commercial off the shelf products, and built systems for customers, both in the military and as a contractor. These days, I work for one of the major public cloud platforms. I won't disclose that just to maintain my my privacy, so to speak. And I'm somewhat, and let's say, I don't want to say quite a career change, but I'm taking the advantage of the downtime offered by COVID-19 to pick up some new skills. So basically, I'm in a programming certificate program right now, mainly Python development. It's about 8 months. I started back in October, so I should be done on time, maybe June, July-ish, so to speak, and then perhaps I can look into getting into software development. But that's all about me. I'll hand it over to
Boy, that's plenty. Boy, that's plenty.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, hit him, Josh. Hit it up, Josh.
That's a very extensive background there, Black Avenger. You know what I'm saying?
Very.
You got
that's impressive. That is very impressive.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, my name's Josh. I'm from KeepItTechie. I have a little YouTube channel where I talk about the Linux operating system as well as other technology or new programming languages, just different things in tech. And the whole purpose of my channel is to try to get people I'm in the manosphere to try to push the tech and a different type of tech to Black people. And because a lot of us are really behind, to be honest. I mean, it's a lot of people jumping into it, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, we still, as a whole, are behind. You don't see many of us in the different fields. So anyway, that's the whole purpose of my channel. But my background, I've been working in the IT field for over 10 years. I've worked in, different positions, starting from network administration, system administration. I've even done some contracting work for the government. I also served time in the military, which they pay for school.
Yeah, all three of us are veterans.
Yep. And I just I got myself in a great position, you know what I'm saying, where I'm able to make good money, contracting with one of the government agencies. And I just feel that I need to give back, just like other people have helped me throughout my career. I'm here to give back as much as I can and the way that I can. So that's it, Nick.
And y'all know who I am. I'm a nobody, loudmouth, internet guy that talk a whole bunch of stuff. But I've always been into computers, but I have nothing official like these two gentlemen right here. Now, granted, I used to work for txconnect.net back in the dial-up days, maintaining the email servers. That's where I kind of cut my teeth, because I'm one of them old cats where computer stuff was more of a hobby back then. You know what I mean? And like I always tell people, my very first machine was an IBM XT80 with 2 5.25-inch floppies and no hard drive.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the Commodore 64 that I had as a kid, with the 5.5 inch floppy drives. But to go back to what you said before, I wouldn't downplay your experience managing a messaging system, because I've cut my teeth on those too. In particular, the Microsoft Exchange messaging system, also Domino messaging system. And messaging is we take it for granted because it's always there. But it's a very complicated system to maintain, because you have so many things that the messaging system touch, in particular the network, which can be complicated within itself. I mean, when you start troubleshooting messaging issues, is it a layer 7? And when I say layer 7, pardon me for that, that's OSI.
No, go ahead, bro.
OSI mod. I don't mean to get technical, but let's just say, is it an application level issue? Is there something wrong with the software, or is it a networking issue? So those things can be pretty difficult to troubleshoot. You can't troubleshoot them on your own per se. You got to bring in people, mainly networking, OS, things of that nature. But not to get sidetracked, but I wouldn't discount your background in maintaining messaging systems, because, as I mentioned before, those systems are pretty complicated to maintain.
Yeah, it was very complicated with me. I mean, but I had a good teacher. So the only thing I did, I pretty much just stayed with him. I was there when we had to go switch from RAID, the RAID types when we went from RAID 5 to RAID 6.
See, now, you even knowing what RAID is pretty impressive for a person that it's not, quote, a computer guy, because I dare to say that if you say RAID, I would say 10% of people who use computers would even know what that means. But go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you can interrupt me at any time.
You're right. Yeah, they'll be looking for a can of bug spray.
Yeah. Well, for the folks that don't know, RAID stands for Redundant Array of Independent Drives, as in hard drives. When you and you have RAID 0 striping, and RAID 1 is mirroring, and 5 is striping with parity, 6 is striping with double parity, and 10, correct me if I'm wrong, is mirroring and striping.
Absolutely, because the 1 is mirroring, and then the 0 is striping. So you get You get
the 1 plus 0 is
you get performance and survivability, so to speak. Because when you stripe, if people don't realize, striping, when you write across multiple disks, you increase performance when you read and write across multiple disks. So what you give up is survivability in the event that
a hard drive failure.
Yeah, you got hard drive failure. Where's your stuff? That's why they introduced mirroring, which is a waste of resources just to mirror. Then they came up with 5, where you use parity. You use the parity bit to recalculate the missing bit to bring up or to retrieve the bit or byte that you lost.
Correct. That's it. And I know some people see a lot of things we say may not make sense now, but if you look at, once you start digging into it, it'll make sense. Because I finally, like I told, I finished my NAS drive. I finished.
Yeah, you emailed me about that.
Yeah, and it's just humming along. So I get, yay! I'm so proud of myself.
Before we move on, I just wanted to mention something. A lot of Josh mentioned something earlier that we're behind as far as representation in tech, whether it be IT, whether it be computer science, and the latest thing, data science, which is nothing more than a rehashing of statistics applied to data using computers. So, but I think the reason why many of us are behind, because many of us somewhat feel we don't really have the chops, so to speak, to enter the field. And I have to say that most of the competent people, extremely competent people that I've met in this field, they didn't have a background in technology. Myself, I was an accountant before becoming an IT professional. But as a kid, I was always into gadgets and stuff like that. So I kind of had the brain for it. But I've met people from marketing. I've met people who worked in the legal field. I mean, non-technical fields that were able to enter the tech field and do quite well. Because at the end of the day, all tech requires is the ability to read, or more particular, read and comprehend what you just read, and think in a logical manner. Think in what computer scientists would say. Don't get me lying, because I'm not a computer scientist, so to speak. But to think in an algorithmic way. Mm-hmm. So in order to think algorithmically, basically that just stems back to algebra. If you're good in algebra, if you're good in geometry, if you had any higher level math, that stuff will help you immensely in tech. That's how come I try to emphasize to my kid, who fights me all the time, well, why do I have to learn algebra? Why do I have to learn algebra? I'm never going to apply this stuff. It's not so much the application of algebra, which you probably will use very, very rarely, especially geometry, calculus, all that stuff. But when you take math classes, you're training your mind to think in a systematic way, in a problem-solving way. You get a big problem, you break it into smaller, manageable pieces,
exactly.
And you work in steps. That is what you're getting from mathematics. You may never even use mathematics, but the training, that sticks with you. I think it does something to your brain, but don't get me talking about cognitive science or anything like that. But that's just my opinion. I believe that if you rigorously work math problems when you're younger, and you take it seriously, even though you may not apply it, it helps you down the line when you try to enter programming or you try to enter system administration, because all that stuff just requires logical, algorithmic thinking. You got to think logically. You got to think, I would dare say, like an engineer, to break down a problem into manageable pieces and manage those small problems, solve those, and then bring all those problems back together that are solved to come up with a solution. So that's my opinion. I'm not speaking as an authority. I'm just speaking how it's helped me. Maybe someone can draw a parallel.
And I'm glad you pointed that out, man, because that's one of the reasons I make the videos, just to show people how simple a lot of this stuff is. I mean, because just like what you said with the whole people not thinking they have the chops for it. I mean, we live in a day right now where you can learn anything online, anything from YouTube, anything from all these different resources are at your fingertips in order to get into these different fields. It's right there. You just have to take the time and apply yourself to absorb the information and apply it. So yeah, I definitely agree with what you said.
I agree 100%. I mean, this explosion of mock, so to speak, which is, I believe it's massive online open content or massive open online content. I think the first organization to bring that to fruition was back in 2003. I think it's called MIT Open MIT, something like that, where they were offering courses for free online, but no instructor. They just offered the syllabus, the books, the ebooks, and you go through the course at your own pace. You have people in India getting the equivalent of a bachelor's degree because they went through all of the open online content that MIT released, and that was almost 20 years ago. So now you got things like Coursera, whereas Coursera, if you want to get into the IT field, Google offers something in coordination with Coursera. I believe it's called IT certificate or professional IT certificate, whereas you don't even need to have a background in IT. It's a 5-month certificate program. I think you pay $29 or $59 a month for as long as you're in the program. I think it's fairly cheap. It's something that's quasi-official, something you can put on your resume. But you have a lot of these universities now.
I put a link for it in the go ahead, bro. I put a link in the
community that have continuous education, the continuous education route, where you don't even need to put in an application. All you need to do is come up with a credit card and an application. You're in. That's what I did with the University of Washington back in October. I enrolled in a Python programming certificate because I want to migrate out of IT operations and get into IT development or software development. So, but in order to do that, as Josh said, you need to take advantage of what's out there. A lot of this stuff used to be esoteric in a sense that you had to enroll in the college, and you have to enroll in different organizations to get access to this information so you can better your lot in life. But you have so many things that are at your fingertips. I mean, hell, YouTube. I find myself looking at YouTube videos to try to learn, but it's out there. I mean, it depends on whether or not you want to what I call exercise good opportunity costs. I don't know if you know what that term means. It's basically an economics term. Decision making. Every decision has costs and benefits.
Yes, we call it financial reasoning in my line of work.
Yeah, financial reasoning. So everybody, it's so common sense. So let's say, for example, you're a football player. You're a college football player. It's Friday night or Saturday night. It's after the game. You got a Monday morning exam.
Mm-hmm.
You can spend your weekend in two ways. Chasing skirts. Benefit of that, you get what's under the skirt. But the foregone benefit is that you didn't prepare to get that A in the exam.
Correct.
And vice versa. You can spend all weekend studying for the exam on Monday. The benefit is you give yourself a great chance to get an A, but you missed out on what's under the skirt because you decided not to chase the skirts. So that's a quick and dirty thing about opportunity costs. And I think a lot of people have an inherent understanding of that, but they don't put it to practice. It seems like a lot of people, they just choose the wrong thing, or the wrong things to waste their time on. And I think, as Josh mentioned, we lack representation, I think, through decision making, the decisions you make.
I agree.
It's not hard. What do you want to do with your life? I learned that when I started college 2 years late because I didn't go straight into college. I worked loading trucks. I said to myself, well, shit, man, I can't do this for the next 20 or so years. I better go get some skills.
Yeah, that's a temp thing.
Yeah, so went to junior college, got a football scholarship to a 4-year school, and it was a wrap. But I had the maturity to say to myself, hey, I don't want to waste my life doing dumb shit. 20 or 25 years later, I think I made the right choice.
Yeah, and on football, people that never played the sport, they just watch it from the bleachers and yell at somebody for missing a tackle or not this or dropping a pass. They have no idea the amount of science that goes into football and choosing people. It's just like I look at it, choosing computer parts. Am I building a computer for streaming, or am I building a computer for video rendering, or am I building a computer for gaming or workstation? It's that the video card that you put in that workstation machine, you put that in a gaming machine, it's going to bottleneck all the hell up and it's going to be horrible. But people don't know what we always say? Don't make your quarterback have to play linebacker.
Yeah.
And people will go, what? And you like, okay, they ain't play football. So
you mentioned something that popped into my mind when you talked about computer system. You know, in all my years in IT, some of the people who have done quite well are people who were mechanics. And I talked to a mechanic one time, that a former mechanic that was in IT. And then he said, you know what? A car system isn't that much different than a computer system, because the engine in a car, is an engine, but its counterpart in a computer would be your CPU.
Correct. And
then you got all the other stuff that ties into that CPU, whereas on a car, most of the stuff in a car, and I'm not a mechanic, ties into the engine or the transmission of the powertrain, so to speak. But they're systems. Again, in order to be a mechanic, as I mentioned before, you got to think in a logical, systematic way. So that's how come a mechanic can go from working on cars, whether he's formally trained or taught himself, and then go right into IT. But as I mentioned before, this stuff isn't hard. But correction. It's simple but difficult. I know that sounds kind of
it's tedious.
It's tedious. It's not difficult to comprehend, but it's going to take some work to get the experience, to get the muscle memory that's associated with working with computers or networking or programming. It's all about developing muscle memory, like football. You don't show up for practice day one being able to play like you did year 3 or year 4.
No.
Take like any craft, you have to work at it.
I agree.
And that ties back to what you said in the beginning, Black Avenger, that you enrolled in a Python course, so you can get into that actual area of IT. Same thing you got to do regardless of what area you're going into. You're going to have to spend your time and spend your money as well, and invest in yourself in order to stay relevant in this field, because things are always changing. Like that's why I brought up the Python example. That's one of the it's starting to become one of the most popular programming languages out there behind JavaScript. Go ahead. You can go ahead.
And like you said, I'm glad you brought that up, because I had a discussion. I forgot where the discussion was. I brought up Python for that same exact reason. Someone said, "Well, which language should I learn first?" I said, "Well, hell, I'm in a Python program right now. You should learn Python. Not only should you learn it, it's easy. Now, I don't want to say the syntax is easy to read, but you still have to think in a algorithmic and logical way to make all those modules work, or to make the constructs of the language work. You got to know which data structure to use. You got to know, do I loop through a list, or do I use a decision structure on a list? I mean, it's just so the program can get deep, but it's learnable, man. You just have to stick with it. And the thing about learning programming that I have learned thus far is not so much the syntax, because the syntax you can look up online. It's how you think about solving problems.
Exactly.
That's
great. Syntax, but isn't because I don't know, isn't syntax, that is based on a base set of rules or something like that, and then
absolutely, it's all
Okay.
rules based.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the way I kind of explain it is, I mean, it's when you talk about programming language syntaxes, I mean, it's, if you think about it, it's almost like a different language, like learning Spanish versus English.
Exactly.
Or a better example, what's one of the languages that are like very similar? I know, like,
was
it's just certain
Spanish and
dialects are
Latin.
different.
Spanish and Latin, a lot of stuff
Actually,
crosses between the two.
Well, they'll use some words that they'll be similar in the name of it. Like for instance, I used to develop some PHP at one point, and I developed VBA in like what you call those databases?
Access databases.
Yeah, I used to code in that to build front ends for like data, just to show information out. But anyway, the syntax, by learning that syntax, because I learned that syntax first, by learning and understanding that syntax, I was able to apply it to other programming languages by just understanding the way, like what he was saying, the variables. Like you can have variables, you can have, once you understand understand the what word you use?
The algorithm, how you
the algorithm
solving problems in programming. But let me point out this point. All programming languages are very similar.
Exactly.
It's syntax. A variable, you're going to make assignments to variables. Variables are going to point to spaces in memory. If you want to put things in a list, you put them in an array. In C++, it's called an array. In Python, it's called a list. Then you have dictionaries, which is a similar data structure. Whereas you reference an index, or you reference an index in a list or dictionary to get to a value. Now you do have some major differences amongst the languages, and this is what I just read because I've not studied Java or C++, but a thing that's called memory management. Java does it very well. Garbage collecting, they call it. Python does a so-so job at it, but C++, you have to actually code in memory management. I think I don't know. It's like I said, I've not studied C++, just what I've read as far as the differences amongst the languages. But going back to the point I made earlier, all programming languages are similar. They use the same techniques to process data. The only difference is the syntax. That's how come some people, when they study a first language, it's a steep learning curve. But once they've already studied a couple languages, to study an additional one, that learning curve is not going to be as steep. I would dare say it'll be shallow.
Yeah, because it's just different terms that you'll use, like select case. That is something different in a different programming language, or
exactly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, they all do the same thing. They just have different nomenclature, so to speak, on how they classify different techniques and the syntax.
Yep. Exactly.
You'll go. I'm just putting links of the stuff you guys are talking to, so people, if they want to go back later on, because this isn't going to Patreon or nothing like that, then they can come back and oh, y'all got a question. I know I can't answer that. That's going to be for y'all.
Python is good with databases. In fact, I will go a step further and say that Python is the de facto language when it comes to crunching data, processing data. If you ever heard of the field of data science, there are two main languages that data analysts or data scientists use to extract data and process it and to extract information from that data. One is R. R was the preeminent language until Python came along. So Python now is probably the de facto language when you talk data science. I would dare you to go look up any data science certificate program or degree program, and I would be shocked if Python was not at the center of that data science certificate program. I say certificate versus degree because a degree you probably have to take several other languages, C++, Java, because all those things come into play, especially Java, when you're talking about processing large data sets or when you talk about big data. But as I mentioned before, if you look for any data science certificate program, I would be shocked if I did not see Python front and center as far as learning data science techniques, because the libraries that are associated with Python, gosh, I think Python has the largest number of libraries of any programming language. NumPy for data science, Scikit for data science, Pandas for data science. You got so many. Python is just so well suited for data science. So to answer your question, yes, data science. The question would be, what are you trying to do with the database? Because PHP can access a database just as well as Python. In fact, if you're trying to extract data from a database and present it to a web page, I would dare say, and I'm not a web developer, but I would dare say PHP would probably has the most extensive time accessing database, because PHP is so old. PHP has been out for a while, for well over 20 years, whereas Python wasn't initially used in web development until they came along with the web frameworks such as Django and Flask. So with the advent of Django and Flask, Python accesses databases pretty well. But accessing a database is pretty simple for a programming language. So any of them could do it. It depends on what you're trying to do in the context of what's the context in which you're trying to extract data from a database.
Okay,
and I'm glad you brought up. Oh, go ahead.
No. This y'all show. No, I'm just clicking buttons.
Is Python video game development? Nope. Video game development, you probably want to learn C++. First and foremost, Java. And now a lot of games are on your phone, so you must know Android development or Objective-C for iPhones. I don't know if Objective-C is the default language anymore for for game development on phones, but it seems like everyone's on a phone now. Very few people are playing games on a computer. They're playing games on apps. So you would need to learn some sort of Android development. And just taking a cursory view of the language that's used for Android development, it is very similar to Java. In some cases, it is Java. Java is very well suited for Android development. As far as Python, as far as iPhone development, I don't know. I'm not an iPhone person.
Me neither.
But from what I've read, I think it was Objective C, if I'm not mistaken.
The Apple people get mad at me when we had when they used to have the tech show and, and TechCon and all that other stuff here. And I walked in and I got a t-shirt and it has like a little baby monkey and he walking, and he keeps walking that, then he morphs and the monkey is walking upright and he turns into the Android symbol and it says evolve. Boy, them Apple people, they didn't like that. And you should see the look on their faces. But what I say, I've always heard if you can learn C++, you can learn any programming language.
I agree with that. I agree with that somewhat. I will say that in all my elective courses, because remember, I went from my second degree for information technology, which is not computer science, but I needed to take electives in computer science just to round out my knowledge. And of all the electives that I took, I found C++ to be the most difficult. Yeah.
Cool. Josh, go ahead if you got a follow up before I ask a question.
I kind of forgot what I was. I was just gonna say I was glad he brought up OR, because OR is a language that's used in statistical and data science. So I was just glad he brought that up. I was just gonna add lib on it. But everything he said about Python is correct. It's probably the center of that area when it comes to working with databases. Most web development nowadays is going towards the Markdown language. I've seen a lot as far as static websites where it doesn't have a database running in the background, because typically a web server consists of the LAMP stack or the WAMP stack. You basically have a Linux and then Apache, PHP, and MySQL. Or, like on Windows, it's all kind of encompassing ISS with MySQL, depending on if you have a backend for it. But that's the typical setup for a web server. And so that all works in tandem in order to render the website. So
that's another brother
anyway,
right there on the screen that's hot in this game right there, Odinga. He hot. Mm-hmm. He hot in this. Go ahead, bro. I ain't gonna mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no. You good. That was it. That's all I had to say.
Yep. Okay. Now I got a question. Now, Josh, you already killed it because you done a video on it. God dang it. So you stole my thunder. Can you explain to people why search engine security is so important?
All right, so
just the basics without blowing their heads off their shoulders.
Yeah. No, I keep it simple. But basically, all these big companies, and a lot of people don't know this, they just sign up for accounts and just use the service, and it's all dealing with convenience. It's simple to just sign up, create an account, and you get to go. Well, you don't understand what you're signing up for. And you basically signing up to give these people your data. So most people that search Google, they do have a Google account. And a lot of times they're logged into their Google account on their browser, on their computer. So anything you search, and it ties together with the browser as well. So, most people use Google Chrome. A lot of people use Google Chrome. And that's tied to your Google account as well. So anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is that anything that you search is logged into a database, and which is what we was just talking about, databases. They got petabytes of data out there on, people, just people in general. And what they use that data for is to work with their advertisement platform, because that's how they make money, which I mean, it's understandable, but at the end of the day, you are the reason the account is free is because you are the what they're trying to get and sell at that, you know, like everything about you. They sell that information to advertisement companies.
So that ties into what you just mentioned right there goes into the realm of data science, machine learning, and AI. And
exactly.
I'm neither of those experts, but like I mentioned before, I read a lot. I'm a lifelong learner, and what he said is absolutely correct. Your data is for sale. Your data in the next.
They call it data mining, don't they?
Well,
or is that something different?
Data mining. That's an antiquated term, but is I would say data mining, but not in the sense of what is used for today. Because before the advent of AI, machine learning, things of that nature, you would store that data in a data warehouse, and then from there, you would try to retrieve maybe bits and pieces of data just to access a piece of information that you need access to. But for the most part, it was all stored in a structured manner in what we call a relational database. A relational database is what we've been talking about just far. Your MySQLs, your Microsoft SQL, Oracle, Postgres. Those are relational databases, whereas you put data in, you put in records, and those records form tables, and those tables are linked to other tables where all the data is related. And then you can mine that data based on an attribute you're looking for. Whereas now today, most of this data isn't stored in a relational database. It's stored in something called a non-relational database, or something that's called NoSQL. And NoSQL, because if you know what SQL stands for, it's nothing more than the S means structured query language. Well, NoSQL means no SQL. It's not structured. It's not records and table. It's nothing more than a big repository of unstructured data. Could be phone records, could be receipts. It could be the data associated with your little what's the little discount cards that you swipe at the convenience store. Any and everything that produces data is very important. It goes into a repository. The biggest repository out there right now, MongoDB. You would put that into an unstructured database. You would take a query client, probably Spark, probably R, probably Python. And what you're doing, you're trying to extract information from that unstructured data. Like, for example, let's say that you got a retailer, they got all this data that the customers are generating. It could be purchases, it could be discounts that they've taken, it could be credit card information, etc. So now they store chains, they got this big repository of data. So now they will use data scientists that are using some sort of Python application to grab that unstructured data and extract useful information out of it, so they can craft advertisements that pop up in your web browser, or they can time how the inventory is managed based on that information that they get out of the database that flat database that all the information is in. What else? The credit card information, that's important. Like, for example, if credit card purchases are high, let's say for Amazon, so to speak, Someone is collecting that information. So hedge funds now are going to buy that information of credit card sales that are on online stores. What's the next step? Well, if they see that credit card purchases are up, especially during a pandemic, guess what they can predict? They can predict that when Amazon earnings comes out, Amazon is going to beat earnings. So what do those hedge funds do? Well, they probably are buying a whole bunch of call options on the anticipation that Amazon is going to beat earnings. If Amazon beats earnings, you're going to see a spike in Amazon's stock price. All that stuff is tied to the data that's out there that's being collected on you everywhere you go. So as I mentioned before, data is going to be very valuable. It is very valuable. People are making predictive, performing predictive analysis on unstructured data. You got all this floating data out there. Somebody needs to wrangle that data in. And that's a term, data wrangling or data mungling. You need to bring all that data in. You need to process it. So what does that mean for the general public? Well, they're going to need people who are trained in this type of in this field. Mm-hmm. So might help to learn Python, might help to learn statistics. It might help to go get a data science certificate if you don't have the time to invest to get a data science degree. Data is going to be the new. What was something that created a lot of jobs and made a lot of people rich?
Unstructured database application.
No.
I thought you was talking. Okay.
What's the name of an unstructured database application? MongoDB. I would look up MongoDB. That is an unstructured database. Yeah, like Rasta Reality says, yeah, something like the Minority Report. Yeah, because of the whole predictive analysis piece that goes with processing unstructured data. You know who else uses a whole lot of unstructured data and data scientists? The FBI.
Yes.
The FBI uses a lot of predictive analysis because how do you think they track down terrorists? How do you think they track down high value targets? They leave a data trail. They leave different bits and pieces of data, and the smart people at the NSA or the smart people at the FBI, they're collecting all this data, and now they can get one piece of data on somebody, injected into a big data set, and have data analysts run analysis on that data, and they can come out with a profile. Probably your habits, where you may be located, etc. How do you think they found a whole lot of high value targets in Iraq? They used data science. Data will prove to be very, very important in decades to come. Just managing data, because we're generating data at such a large rate that we've never generated before. I mean, we're all online. We're all purchasing shit. I mean, you got so many data collection devices out there. The point of sales terminals, those are data collection devices. Your airline terminals where you check in, that's a data collection device. So you got, I mean, it's a booming field. You know, if I were a younger person, yeah, I would definitely look into that. If anybody ever stumbles upon this this video.
And Ted, I'm sorry. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and you're 100% right. Data is gonna be like one of the next big things. I mean, just managing all this data that's out here that's being collected. They haven't got to the point where, you know, AI can just manage it all. You know, they haven't got to that point. But until then, it's going to be a lot of jobs that are needed in that area as far as data science, working with data. So that's definitely needed. But also another thing I was going to say, purchases as well, as far as Google. I mean, everything is tied to that. Like, I don't know if you guys know that, but your all your credit cards, and I'm glad you brought that up, Black Avenger, that about purchases. Your credit cards are tied to your Google account. All that data is stored on Google. And they have it to where you have to dig to get rid of that data out of their system, and then you don't really know if it's really being removed. Anything that you've done while logged into your Google account. So that was one of the reasons, just to get back to what you were saying, Nick. That's one of the reasons I did that video, just talking about alternative search engines, because that's kind of like a first step. Most people, so it'll be easy for them to switch over from searching on Google to a different search engine. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but that's all I wanted. Go ahead.
Yeah, like you mentioned, it's hard to get rid of that data once it's uploaded to the data repository, whatever that is, the cloud or whatever they want to classify it. It's there, man. And as someone who has managed systems that process big data, right away when there's an ingestion of data into a big data system, they make 3 copies of it. That's the minimum. Why they do that? Because a big data system doesn't have something that Nick mentioned earlier. It doesn't have RAID, because RAID will slow down a big data system. So what they have is something called JBOD, just a bunch of disk. And instead of striping over disks, they are striping over servers. They got one block on one server, one block on another server, and one block on another server. So at the very least, 3 copies of your data is proliferated through whatever system you ingested that data into. So you guys are like to send those D pics, and those you women that like to send those open leg shots, and you think you've deleted that. You think you've deleted that? Yeah, you've deleted it off your phone, but I'm willing to bet that data is still up there in the cloud. That data is probably in NSA servers being held, because the NSA, they process data, whatever is out there. They grab. They say they don't collect information on U.S. persons.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They say they don't, but they say they only collect information, cell phone information on non-U.S. persons.
That's why
I'm trying to wrap my head around that. So it uses your server like a parody.
Say that.
That's
again.
why
it uses, instead of it, like you said, instead of like your normal RAID setup, it's just, and you said it drops it on, so it's treating servers like a parody, putting parody blocks on different servers.
Don't think parody in the sense of RAID, but let's say, for example, on a server, you upload data, and you may have RAID 5 going on. So they take a block, they write it on one disk, they write a block on another disk, and then another disk, and then they calculate the parity. Well, with many big data systems, you don't have RAID on those systems because that was slow the processing of the data down, number one. And number two,
data retrieval slows down. Yes, sir.
So that, and besides, surprisingly to me, they just use regular run-of-the-mill servers in big data systems where you have the high-end server is something called the master. In big data, you have a master server, which is the brains of your big data cluster, so to speak. And then you have all of these slave machines. When you upload data, they don't break the data up per se. They'll take a copy of that data and put it on 3 servers. So now if one server goes down, no big deal. We got your data on another server and then another server. But that's the minimum. If people are if people want to hedge their bet, so to speak, or try to protect their data even more, you can spread the data across multiple servers. And then places like Facebook, places like Google, Facebook, they are the ones that invented this technology or this field that's called big data approximately 12 years ago, 2007, 8-ish, so to speak. And that's what's powering these systems today, man. I mean, when you upload data, you can rest assured that that data is living on some server.
It's somewhere. Yeah, nothing goes away.
The term is actually called geo replication. So it crosses the globe because they have these data centers all over the world, pretty much. I mean, you guys know that they running, cable across the ocean floor. They've been doing that for years. You know what I'm saying? But they're also looking at submerging data centers under the ocean. So that's another thing that they're doing. I remember reading an article last year where Microsoft is submerging computers under the water, under the ocean, in these sealed up containers with basically where they can process data. Yeah, it's going on. They're able to replicate the data across the globe as far as backups go. It's not like a RAID. It's basically a copy of the data, and that's so it can be accessed just as quick as you can access it at your house. If you fly to London tomorrow, that same data that's in the cloud, you can access it there as well, as long as you have a connection to it, to their server, because it's already been replicated across their servers.
The technical name for that is content. I believe it's CDN, Content Delivery Network.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I heard that term from Microsoft, from a company I was working for. They call it geo replication. Yeah, it's all based on
the same geo replication, because that's what CDN basically is. You upload, let's say you upload the data in New York. They're going to replicate that data to France, so people who are in France can access that data quickly, as opposed to going across great lengths to the United States to get that data. So yeah, geo replication, content delivery network is all the same. Just geo distributing data, so those who are closest to the data can actually get the data.
I got something here now. I know all three of us were vets, right? We kind of know in different capacities. I'm, more the being an artilleryman, people don't y'all get it, but the math, the charting, the mapping, the graphing that goes into getting throwing 100-pound shell, what I mean, from here, wind directions, speed, elevation, air resistance,
right,
air density, and all this other stuff, and us to get a hit without throwing myself completely under the bus. We had a dragonfly. And to the people that's listening, think of the actual insect, dragonfly. We had people, and this isn't nothing. This isn't a top secret. I mean, not everybody, anybody that want to know this, can find this out. Little details. We had guys in BDUs in the Digitech, the military uniform come up, but with no names, no rank, no nothing. But they had the haircut and everything else, and they attached themselves to our fire point because artillerymen, we're up in the mountains, because they helicopter us in, and whatnot, and we set up fire points, where we can shoot across valleys and down into the valley. And they had 2 dragonflies. Now the wings spread it out past your hand, but not very much. And they were flying them. And we're getting back, and we had the Tech G guys, G Lowry, because that's what, and I ain't gonna throw him under the bus, but that's what he was doing. And they're sitting there, and they walk up to me, Sarge, what? You that's the biggest generator y'all got at this firing point? I'm like, that's the only generator we done had since we've been here 2 months. Guess what? A 60 kW generator comes in on a freaking Chinook helicopter 2 hours later. Now wait a minute. You know what I mean? Are you freaking kidding me? But now we got power. Now they done set up laptops, all this other stuff, and they're flying and camera watching these dragonflies. But here's the thing. Now, this is technology I don't understand. The dragonflies had to stay within rather close proximity of each other.
That's because the network, they have a network between each other, and I can't quite explain it. You said they had to stay in tight proximity of each other.
Well, they were saying they couldn't get too far away from each other because it had something to do with one feeding off of the other for GPS location.
Exactly. They're sharing information. In other words, they have their own little local area network, so to speak. Whereas they're communicating with each other. Just think.
Yeah, they said they can't use them individually. They have to use them in 2 or more.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of, they're just sharing data between each other, GPS information between each other. Now, why they need to do it that way, I don't know. But just think of, you remember just a dumb hub. You get a little dumb hub, and then you put different computers into it so they can communicate with each other.
Correct.
So you have something called attenuation. So if you have too long of a cable, you're going to distort the signal. The signal is going to degrade.
Correct.
So, and that's the same type of reasoning that is going into those dragonflies, and that they can't get too far apart from each other because, number one, they can't operate as a unit. Number two, if they get too far apart, they're going to experience attenuation, whereas the signal is going to degrade, and the data that they receive to maintain whatever they are doing will fail. So that's how come they need to keep themselves together. That's the best I can explain it without knowing all of the details of the context involved.
Yeah, to be honest, I can't explain it at all. But there is a movie that I've seen. I cannot think of the name of it. And so if somebody in the chat can help me out, but I think they were attacking, I don't know, a government official or something like that. And it was a whole bunch of these like dragonflies basically that was flying around, and they directed them based on the targets, you know, that they were trying to hit. But anyway, it was a recent action movie or whatever that they were showing this technology in that's probably either already out there or, you know, it's coming. It's not shown to the public yet. But
I remember, I still remember,
you see a lot of stuff in movies that
I remember
coming.
These guys, because they're standing over there and I'm standing there and I'm just looking, and I look back and forth, and I still remember one of the guys talking to me. He said, "It's chewing at you, ain't it?" I said, "Yes, it is." I still remember, but because I was figuring that, I figured some of it out, because it's like I launch one, okay, not I as in me. I didn't launch anything, but you know what I'm saying. One flies off, and once it gets to a certain distance, they put out another one. You know what? Like they're making a daisy chain.
Yeah.
So I guess they can go further out the more dragonflies they get, because dragonfly number 1, as long as it can see number 2, and 2 can see 3, and 3 can see 4, and 4 can see Josh sitting there at his laptop. I guess that's how they run them in an array, I guess.
So that basically what they're doing is extending the capabilities of that dragonfly. So dragonfly, let's use a football field for example. Okay. Dragonfly number 1 goes 100 yards out to the other end zone. Well, how's it going to get that data back if it only has a 20-yard range? So you're going to send Dragonfly number 2 out. It's going to be at the 80, well, not the 80, but the 20-yard, the other 20-yard line, and then so forth. So you send those out. And so what they're doing, they are extending the capability so that Dragonfly number 1 cat, it can relay whatever data or visual that it's getting back to the person that launched it. So that's how come those Dragonflies, they can't get too far out of range, because you break the chain or you degrade the signal. That's how come they have to be within range. So that's why he sent one out and then sent the other out and sent the other out. So
I was in awe. I mean, I wasn't like, I mean, I was wow. I mean, like, but wow, I know escape, but I was like, wow, we're here. If you know what I mean, we're here. And that it was, but most of the other guys were like this. And I'm the only one. I was locked in, but that's always been me, because I've always been in the, even though I was artillery, man, I'm still in the tech, but people think you're done. I said, look, man, if you suck at math, artillery ain't for you. You got to be a balance of brain and brawn. But if you suck at math, you're not going to like field artillery, and field artillery ain't going to like you. But so, hey, somebody, I mean, when you look at that chart or that map and you go, what? If you say what, this ain't for you. You know what I mean? You gotta know how to, because like I say, when the rotation of the earth, comes into play when shooting at certain elevations. Because if you're shooting with the rotation of the earth, the shell doesn't go as far, if that makes sense. If you're shooting against the rotation of the earth, the earth is actually rotating against the shell, so the shell seems like it's going further.
So maybe adding more torque to the rotation, because if you're going against the earth's rotation, that's going to create a torquing motion, twisting that round, and I guess propelling it.
Correct. So you have to change your quadrant, which is elevation, because the further we get it away from the Earth's surface, the less effect of gravity it has on. So we may have to relocate, because can we hit this target at a quadrant over 900 mils? If yes, no. If the answer is no, we gotta, we gotta move to another location, and maybe even sometime change direction, get on the other side of something where we're shooting against the rotation, where we can actually reach out a little further and get you. It's more going on in field artillery than now. Short range artillery, you can throw all that away. You know what I mean? When you're just shooting, a mile in, you can throw all that away, because the power of the round, and it overpower all of that. But when we're trying to hit a specific road 34 miles away, there's some math, you know what I'm saying, that has to go into that there.
What's the name of those systems that you all have? What are they called? Trident systems?
Triton is a booster rocket based system. That's the Triton, and the oh God, the Triton and the Copperhead. Okay. Yeah, I was on that team. We went to Nome, Alaska to test out the Copperhead round effects on extreme cold.
I think I remember the Copperhead round. Is the Copperhead system, so to speak, was that a laser guided system? You had somebody out there lacing a target, and then you launched the Copperhead.
Yes, it has a laser. It has a guidance. It has its own gyroscope in it and everything.
So you needed someone. Is that the system where you needed a man on the ground lacing the target, and then?
Yeah, normally you use a forward observer, or in dire situations, you can actually use the spotter of a sniper, a sniper spotter. We can use him too.
Okay, yeah, I remember reading about those systems long time ago.
And that hey man, I'm sorry, man. Sun's out, guns out. We do what we do. I'm sorry. But now nerds form up. Hey, this is the stuff that I like. I like this stuff because I don't think there's enough of this. I'll be watching KeepItTechie stuff, but he be on in the daytime and I'll be at work. So I got to watch the restream, when I get in.
There's a difference between a nerd and a geek.
Yes, and you know what? I be telling people that, and they don't. Oh no, it's not. I said yes, it is. There's a big difference between a nerd, a geek, and a techie. It's different.
A nerd is someone is more visual with a nerd. The way they move, pocket protector, eyeglasses, just the way they speak. Whereas a geek, you can't even tell whether or not he or she.
See, he would say something about the. See, now I got to take my pen out my pocket, man. He
not that, but a geek kind of blends in. Whereas a nerd, you like, that's a nerd. Whereas a geek could probably kill you. Fuck Green Beret, and they call those guys geeks with guns.
Yeah, they're geeks. They are. They're literally geeks with guns.
Geeks with guns, and having served as a support person in that type of unit, yeah, I mean, I know the difference between a geek and a nerd.
Man, we had to learn. So, and then when they had the BCS, because that was the battery computer system, and in the event of a failure, we had to go to what was called a BUX, which is a backup computer system. Then if that failed, we literally went to chart and graph and done it manually. And we used to practice it all the time. I mean, because, hey, what they say, shit happens, right? The God of war, the angel of war will piss in your flintlock of your rifle at the most inopportune time. And you got to make it happen. But now, bruh, this here, I see what's happening with the Parler deal. I don't know if both of you guys are up to speed on that.
I wasn't even aware of Parler until I heard about it on one of your videos.
Yeah, they're like Twitter,
Yeah, I'm out of the video sharing social media business. I'm not into that anymore. But so I wasn't aware of Parler. From what I've read lately, they're out of money, right? They've run out of money, or what? Or are they still?
No, well, they have the money, but they were on Amazon's server, and Amazon don't like. Basically, I've read their own statements and whatnot. Basically, they're like, no, we're taking you off our servers because, political leanings. And I'm not, me, I'm not even going to get into that. But
you know what? That's unconscionable on Parler's behalf. I would dare say, they kind of deserve that, man, because they had precedents for that. Gab AI or Gab.com when that nutball.
Sure. Yeah, I heard a Gab by way of Parler, but I'm looking at it but I'm tell people, I said, look, I'm kind of torn because it's like, look, if it's my server, I ought to be able to say who I want on my server.
But that's just it. It's not their server.
No, I don't mean Parler. I mean Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking, and I'm no fan of Amazon, but I'm fair. Because that, like, if I had Nick's server farm, dun, 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 dun,
right,
and I don't want, and somebody come and then they start turning and they putting people setting Barbie dolls on fire or something, and I think that's, okay, look, man, y'all gonna, hey, Carrie, you gonna have to go to somebody else's server. And they say, well, you can't do that. You're kicking me off just because you don't like me setting baby dolls on fire. Yeah, but okay, but And then other people. Now the thing is, which was strange, was two other companies was like, look, dude, you can put your stuff over here, but next thing you know, an email went out from this certain last name is Gates, and then this other guy from Amazon, and then those people that said that they could put their stuff over there couldn't. But and that's not my argument. What I was just giving some perfunctory.
Okay.
So they can. I mean, I can only imagine the amount of space you would need to build to run your own freaking server. But the thing is, I can't say that because somebody built it. Amazon got one. AT&T got one. This one.
Well, what did they do? What did they do before there was an Amazon? What did they do before there was a Google?
Well, from what I understand from the CEO, they literally started on Amazon's server.
And that's the whole problem. Everyone, I won't say everyone, but CIOs, they choose Amazon, they choose cloud computing because of the total cost of ownership. You lower your total cost of ownership when you rent compute, storage, and networking from Amazon. Whereas the old days, you buy one big ass server, or you buy a server farm, you may not utilize that compute capacity to its fullest. So in essence, you've increased your total cost of ownership because you have idle resources. So a lot of people, when they first start, they go on Amazon. I get it. But if you're going to do something as controversial as that, there are a lot of smaller cloud providers that are overseas, mainly in the Netherlands, that believe in free speech.
And I know if anybody would know, it'd be you.
Yeah.
And I knew you guys were going that direction.
Done that.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
Nah, I was just gonna say I knew y'all was going in that direction. It kind of brought back some memories of what's been going on, like with the whole WikiLeaks stuff, how they keep their servers or their services on like
so basically if you don't like what I'm saying, you're gonna shut me up.
Right. I mean, this should have been foreseeable by Paula. As I mentioned before, unconscionable, Nick. I mean, how do you not plan for that? How do you not foresee that?
Well, I mean, I agree. But now I'm thinking like this, and then something else, like Josh said earlier about trying to bring us up to speed in this tech world as we're underrepresented. And I think Tech G put something up, and I think it was something to the area of like 7% or something like that, which isn't a lot. And I know there's varying reasons. I know some. I'm not even gonna try to dissect and play into the mind of the average person. Mm-hmm. But if you, I mean, I feel it's like this. It's like certain things I shouldn't, if I'm going to put myself in that position or in that line of business. Okay, let's say, I own a storage facility. Now I understand the right to refuse service to anybody. No shoes, no shirt, no service. Remember them signs at the country stores?
Yep.
Okay. And that's just a basic request. But that's like me saying I'm not gonna rent a storage facility to a guy out here, a white guy, because he walked in and he had the 2 lightning bolt tattoos on the back of his hand. Personally, do I like that? No. But from the moral standpoint, and then you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, but then I can't say something if somebody else does it and it goes the opposite way. You know what I'm saying? Towards me. So I figure if I can give it, if I can't take it, then I shouldn't give it. But if I can take it, I should give it. That's the way the way I see it. Now, if now I can only imagine how much money it would take to build a server farm to hold something of that magnitude. Number one, I mean, y'all would know better than I would, but I know I'd have to go to a state like Nevada or something, you know what I mean, where I'm close to that. What's that giant transcontinental, what is it called? Because it runs right through Texas too, because you know Texas, we have our own power grid. Texas is one of the few, Texas is the only state, we have our own power grid, and Texas sells power to neighboring states. You know, but that's Texas. But anyway, like to set up a place in Nevada, you know, where land is cheap, you know, rural land is cheap, and plus that because I know they got them big giant towers, you know what I mean, and it runs across. All I got to do is be near that. Am I in the middle of nowhere? Yes, but my service cost is down because I'm not even a mile away from the transfer line. That's the way my brain works. And as long as I'm somewhere near a highway where the workers can get, because I guess the thing is getting it built and then, as y'all know, maintained.
But,
you know,
but I mean, look at you had 74 million people vote for Trump. Trump raised what was $300 million on his way out. You mean to tell me that people who have that ideology, they can't pool their money together? I mean, who was the person that funded Paula? She was supposedly a very rich person. I mean, I'm quite sure he has connections. I mean, I don't get it, man. It's just something that leaves me scratching my head as to why didn't they plan for this? I mean,
I guess they figured they were going to get an even shake. I don't know what gave them that idea, but
I treat what they did. That's an AD, man. When I say AD in Army parlance, accidental discharge.
Yes, exactly. I knew it as soon as you said it.
Yeah, that's an AD. That's inexcusable.
And I agree. But even though we know it's inexcusable, the definition exists for a reason. The definition exists because
it happened.
It happens. and now. I don't have my tablet with me. People is peppering me with stuff, so I'm trying to ask the stuff that I can remember that people sent me. Do you see this? Do you ever see, is there no limit to where your personal information being stolen, swapped, sold? Is there an end to it? Or is just gonna be like it's just we're here and there's no turning back?
When you say stolen information, you're talking about like data breaches?
Well, I say stolen probably ain't the right word because Google don't force you to sign up for Gmail.
Oh, you mean collection of information?
Yeah.
That's going to continue, man, because as I mentioned before, data is almost as valuable as currency. Because with the right data, you can extract the right information, and from that, you can leverage that to make some money, man. When you apply AI and machine learning to data to extract information that you would not have extracted otherwise, I mean, it's here to stay, man. It's just something trumps that. I mean, data is valuable, man, and people and the way Facebook and Google does it in such an insidious manner. They get you hooked on social media. They get you hooked on YouTube. They get you hooked on Facebook, whereas you don't give a damn if you give them your information because they're feeding an urge for you to be on social media, to be seen, to share information, to broadcast to the world what you're doing. People just love attention. They're addicted to social media. So now in order to access social media, you're going to have to give us some information. I did away with social media 10 years ago, no, 11 years ago, after a report came out. I think it was Byzantine, something like that, the Byzantine report. You have to be like in that community to have gotten that report. And that was an eye opener. I said, you know what? No more Facebook, no more Twitter.
Yeah, I don't have Twitter. I didn't have a MySpace. I got a business Facebook, the business page.
Right.
But I mean that kind
of I have this YouTube. And
yeah. I got YouTube, I got Free Speech Avenger, of course, and I have Press View. I got Odinga's Press View, and that's pretty much it. And I got Gab. I'm on Gab. I'm on Gab.
My advice would be, I don't know, for me, I'm not going to give advice, but
sure.
What I did, my goal is always to minimize my social media footprint, because not only do people use it to track you, but you got to be cognizant of what you put on social media. I'll give you an example. We were looking to hire a guy out of the Midwest,
mm-hmm.
be on a remote team. This was with a previous employer.
Mm-hmm.
I did not interview him. Our team, got two black guys on the team, myself and then the person who runs the team.
Mm-hmm.
So they interviewed this guy. I did not interview him, but the white guys on the team, they interviewed him and they came across this information. They liked him. They're like, yeah, he'll be a good fit. So there's another guy on our team. He likens himself to a sleuth, so to speak, an internet sleuth. So he's going to look for information on you, information that may not be readily available. So this guy got kind of sloppy. He put a social media tag. I think it was either on his resume or he communicated with one of the interviewers, maybe a Twitter handle or something. But one thing led to another. So he went digging, one of the guys on our team. So he ended up associating a Twitter handle with a Gab AI handle. And so the Gab AI handle gave the team some insight into who this guy was. So he had a lot of anti-black, LGBT, because the organization I worked for at the time, big social justice warrior enclave.
Oh God.
So once they found all this information about him, they didn't bring it to his attention. They just said, we're going to go in another direction. Thank you for interviewing. And then I'm quite sure he was wondering, I was expecting to get an offer, but I'm quite sure he might have put two and two together, but he doesn't know for sure. But the moral of the story is, as far as your information,
less is more.
Less is more, and you got to be careful in these heightened times that we live in with regard to social justice, anti-racism. If you're not on the right team, or if your social media footprint shows that you're anti any group or things like that, you're gonna have a hard time, man. That's why that's why I had to step. That's one of the reasons, not the main reason.
That makes sense for you. That makes a hell of a lot of sense. I understand
why I stepped away from it, because I was like, I believe in free speech, but at the same time, I can't really jeopardize.
Right.
So I said, let me just hand this platform over to somebody. They can have it. And I don't want it, because I got a livelihood to protect. I don't have what many people would call "fuck you" money yet. That's a goal of mine.
Yeah, well, I ain't getting now this guy sitting on the other side of you. You want to talk about that's fuck you money over there. Don't let nobody bullshit you. Josh, is one VPN better than another? Do you think?
You want to tackle that, or I can tackle it if you want.
I kind of wanted to answer the last one.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I kind of wanted to add a little bit to it, but
go ahead.
nah, just I mean, you basically hit all the points though, but I'll roll right into the next question like you asked Nick. But
no,
basically,
go ahead. I mean,
Black Avenger.
You may fill in something that we didn't get.
Oh, no. But yeah, Black Avenger is 100% correct though with watch what you put online, you know what I'm saying? Because that could be pulled up. But like I would say my generation or a little bit younger, you know, up to, you know, older generations, they had to play catch up, you know what I'm saying, somewhat. Nowadays, they're catching people from birth as far as data that they're tracking. And so it's here to stay. Just like what Black Avenger just said, it's here to stay. They're going to be tracking you from birth up until you die. Everything is going to be tracked on you. You know what I'm saying? And so it's no way to get around it unless you, I don't know, go live in the middle of the desert somewhere.
And you know? I emphasize that with my kid. Like, you're 14. Well, I restrict her social media, but, you know, I constantly reiterate, be careful what you put online.
Yeah.
Don't be, I feel uncomfortable saying this to her, but don't be sending naked pictures of yourself. Don't do
that.
Don't
never, once you hit, I tell my kids, once you hit enter, click, it's gone. And you can't get it back. I've even had to prove to one of the guys that I work with. I said, all right, dude, delete everything. I said, take this thumb drive. Okay, you got your stuff on there? Yeah. Now go in and do a format on it. Format it. Make sure everything gone, right? Yeah. And I took it and I said, have a seat. You know what I mean? And click. And how the hell but I just formatted it.
Doesn't matter.
And that's why I try to explain it to him. I said, dude, think of that drive as a book. You got Alice in Wonderland, okay, and it starts with this, then go to that, and then the rabbit, and then the other. I said, what format? I said, what it done is it ripped out the first 2 pages, and it ripped off the last 2 pages. Now I can still read the middle, but if you smart, just by reading that part, you might be able to put together what was at the beginning and make the book whole again. But even if I don't, I still got them 122 pages that was in the middle.
A lot of people still don't understand that simple fact that the files are just pointers to the data that's on the disk.
Correct.
You deleted the pointers, but the blocks are still on the disk.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, yeah, we took the librarian out the building, but out of the library, but the books are still on the shelf.
They're still there. Exactly. Great analogy. They're still there.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to explain to him. He's like, man, where did you learn how to do that? And I just say internet. That's all. That's my answer to everything. Internet. But bro, and now what VPN? And y'all, I want to hear both of y'all on it. VPN.
Well, I mean, it's all to be honest. I mean,
I'm sorry. Can you please? I'm sorry, brother. Can you please explain to the folks what a VPN is?
Okay, a VPN was basically created to. I mean, and I'm gonna just use it like a simple example. It was basically created for people that had to work from home or needed to access resources from a different location. And that's kind of what is used for now. People working from home, they have a VPN. And basically what you're doing is creating a secure connection from your local network to the network where the resources are located. That's what it was actually created for. So let's say ABC business, they have like some files on their network that you need to access. Well, you would connect to the network at that location via a virtual private network, which will encrypt all your information back and forth, or your connection, back and forth between your computer and the company's network, so you can access that file on whatever file share that you're trying to get to. That was essentially why it was created. And nowadays is actually created or is used by people that are trying to kind of not really hide, but block out or mask what you're doing. And it really protects you from the VPN past the no, hold on. It protects you from your computer to the actual VPN provider, because you're basically connecting to a company, so to speak, whatever that company is. You're connecting via a secure connection. So one thing that's protecting you're protecting is your ISP, your internet service provider, which they can track everything you do. So you're protecting yourself from those guys. And you're masking yourself based on what you go to on the internet. So any place you go on the internet past that VPN, it's going to have the IP address of that VPN provider. That's the whole point of it. So nobody can, or most servers that you access, like my web server, any web server that you access, it tracks the IP address and of the person that's connecting to the server, or the system that's connecting to the server. And most of the time it's your outside IP address. I don't want to go too deep into your IP, structure and all that stuff, but that's essentially what you're doing. You masking your home IP address from the world by using a VPN. Now they all are pretty much the same. The whole difference between most of them that a lot of people look for is logging. And those and it's typically logging.
Logging.
Yeah, because you're basically putting your security of your personal IP address into the hands of the VPN provider. They know who you are, and then obviously you have to pay them once a month, unless you play them in anonymous cryptocurrency. But anyway, some kind of way is tied to you, so they know who they provide services to based on your payment, as well as your IP address and all that stuff. They have that. It's all dependent on the logging, if they log stuff, and also if they hand things over to 3-letter agencies. Let me just say it that way.
Yeah, 3, 4, and 5-letter agency.
Yeah, but that's only if you're doing something illegal. If you're not doing anything illegal, it's just mainly to protect yourself from your location, pretty much. And if you want to add more, Black Avenger, I don't know if
you pretty much
missed something.
You didn't miss anything. The only thing I would add is that primarily your VPNs differ in the type of encryption that's used, because when you think of VPN, just a private tunnel between two endpoints across a public internet. So what you're doing, you're tunneling through the public internet, as KeepItTechie mentioned. So that tunnel is encrypted and it's impervious to any man-in-the-middle attacks or any deciphering of any information that's in that tunnel. But basically the two types of tunnels, and this may just be nitpicky, type 1, type 2 encryption. Your type 2s, IP Vanish, Cisco AnyConnect, all of the popular commercial products. Your type 1 is normally government grade devices, and they're not software application, they're hardware applications. So let's say you're a government person, you're operating perhaps in a hostile nation, so to speak. You wouldn't use Cisco AnyConnect alone a software or type 2 encryption, a type 2 VPN, you would use that in conjunction with a type 1 VPN device. Could be a router that's connected to your computer. It could be a router that's connected to a TAC lane. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
Not a lot. Like I say, I know what it is, but how it works, I don't know how it works. But
It's just a box that adds another layer of encryption over what was encrypted by the type 2 device. Let's say, the type 2 application. Just think Cisco AnyConnect or any commercial VPN software that you download to your machine. That's type 2. You run that encryption through a type 1 encryption device. Could be a TAC lane, could be that's the only one that I know of, but I know there are a whole lot of other ones that are out there, and those are only used for government operations, so to speak, or military interests, because you can't have someone, okay, you say, yeah, Cisco AnyConnect or a commercial VPN can't be broken, but why take that chance, especially if you have a delicate operation or you're transferring delicate information. Type 2 normally suffice in many instances, but government isn't going to take chances, so
they can't risk it.
Yeah, they can't risk it. So they say, all right, you got type 2, but you can't process.
Like Hillary's server in the bathroom of her place. What was she thinking?
Who?
Hillary Clinton with her own email server in the bathroom.
Yeah, you can't do that. So so basically that's what it is. Type 2 normally suffices, but if you're processing a certain level of classified information, they won't allow you to run that over the internet, even if you do have a VPN tunnel. They'll demand like some sort of type 1 device connected to your computer, processing at the same level, but that's probably a little bit beyond the conversation, but just wanted to add.
Well, that's fine. I only have 2 more questions left. I got one of them. It got tech. I forgot it was in the tech. And then I'll get out you guys' hair because we're under 2 hours, but still. Do either one of y'all see anybody even equally or dethroning Oracle?
As the database, as the 800-pound gorilla.
Yeah. The 800-pound gorilla with multiple and his sidekick is just his gorilla partner is just as big as he is.
Yes and no. Oracle is the king when it comes to relational databases, as we mentioned before, MySQL, Microsoft SQL, and Oracle. Oracle is the flagship when it comes to relational on-prem databases. But now, as I mentioned before, a lot of this data is unstructured. Now you want to look for flat databases or NoSQL databases. So now you're looking at MongoDB, which is the 800-pound gorilla in the room when it comes to flat databases that are in the cloud. Oracle owns the market, relational structured databases on-prem. But now so many operations and so much data is being migrated to the cloud that Oracle is being left behind when it comes to that.
Really?
So, yes, they're being left behind. So now Oracle's play, if they're to remain relevant, or I won't say remain, if they want to become relevant in the unstructured data cloud environment, they are going to have to perform, and this is just me talking, just giving my opinion. They're going to have to do some acquisitions, acquire companies that already have infrastructure in place, as far as
If you can't beat them, buy them.
Yeah, buy them. You're gonna have to buy a lot of these companies. But right now, they're behind, and a lot of people aren't renegotiating with Oracle. Excuse me, because they got some pretty heavy tactics as far as pricing, pressuring customers, upselling customers when they really don't need particular services. Well, you got this service, but you need this one. A lot of customers now don't want to be locked into a particular vendor. So a lot of stuff
which is understandable.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff now is going to be in the cloud. It's going to be open source. MongoDB, I'm not sure if it's open source or not. They may have an open source product, like a community version. And then you may have to, if you want support, I think what you're buying is support, because a lot of these things, although they open source is notoriously difficult to manage or difficult to support. So that's why a lot of these companies that have an open source product, they either sell the open source product very cheaply, and then they sell support, i.e. Red Hat, so to speak. Excuse me. Companies along that line. But to answer your question, Oracle is still the king when it comes to relational databases and Java products, Java software development kit. But a lot of people are migrating away from Oracle Java in support of I think it's Open Java, if I'm not mistaken. Open Java, open support, open source. So
yeah, that's part. They're part of the. They're under Apache is. They're affiliated with them, right?
Apache is its own.
Yeah, because I run Apache. I run their word processor.
Yeah.
I run the whole Apache suite.
Yeah. It's a foundation that's in support of open source. They believe software should be free.
Yeah.
So they got many products, but the thing where, excuse me, Apache lags is support of these products. If you go open source, you're going to have to support it yourself.
Yes.
Operating systems, applications that go on it, etc. That's why commercial products are so attractive, because you buy it and you don't have to patch it. You got legions of developers working for that company, i.e. Microsoft.
Yep.
Push out patches. You don't have to worry about recompiling your kernel. You don't have to worry about patching applications yourself, or reading or scanning code.
Yeah, I got Josh for that. I'm like, Josh, help me. I get it.
I'm not quite sure I understand. It says most developers don't write scripts for unstructured data. That's a bit broad of a
I don't know. I just put it up. That's past. That's higher than my pay grade.
You have to ask yourself where the developer works, because there's so many fields in technology where you could be a developer, but you may not know anything about web development. You may not know anything about dealing with data. You may not know anything about writing games or writing programs for games. So it's a bit of a broad question, but I'll try to answer it. I would say most developers don't write scripts for unstructured data, because number one, most developers aren't working in data science. I guess what you probably meant to say is, do most developers in the data science field write scripts for unstructured data? I would probably say I can't answer that question, to be honest with you, because I've never worked as a developer. I've supported developers, and most of that I have supported don't write scripts for unstructured data. What they do, they write queries against unstructured data to try to extract some information out of that data. And it says also, what programming languages are used with unstructured data? I think a better question would be what type of languages are used in data analytics, data science, things of that nature. As I mentioned earlier, I see Python being mentioned a lot. I see R, the letter R programming language being mentioned a lot. Those are, you would normally find mainly data scientists or data analysts using those programming languages to process data. Your developers, they will probably write applications to access structured data, as opposed to using Python and R, which are mainly used not to develop applications, but basically, as you mentioned before, probably small little scripts, or they might package together a bunch of queries, so to speak, put it in a file, run the file, so to speak. Whereas a developer would probably write an application to access unstructured data in a data science context or in a big data context. And the language that I see most developers using is Java. That's what I see them using, because Java, don't get me too far down in this rat hole, but that tends to be the development language of choice. I don't know why it's the development language of choice. You're free to research that on your own, but that's the language that I see used most prevalent within the context of big data and data science. If that makes any sense.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, it makes sense, because I used to work as a developer at one point, and it was mainly building the application on the front end to use the structured data, or once the data was structured in a way that it can be used, it would, or taking the data and structuring it to generate whatever you're trying to generate with the application itself. So I agree with what you said.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite sites right there, Geeks for Geeks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man.
That's still one of my favorite sites. I'm telling people, I know I catch a lot of people off guard because they just ham-handed tow truck impound guy, ex-military. My whole system, I built it. I built the network at both offices. I even built the machines.
They actually have a YouTube channel. I'm subscribed to it, actually.
Oh, okay. And then, but I noticed something which is strange. A lot of the tech YouTube channels, them guys are touchy. I mean, if you just, you know what I'm saying? And they dog, I'm like, man, dude, calm down. They are real touchy. But I'm building a new workstation. Ain't nothing wrong with my old workstation. I've just outgrown it. And we're going to the Gen 3 Ryzen 9. I was going to go with a Threadripper, but then I'm like, I better hold on. But right now, Threadripper prices are insane right now. And but I figured this, and because this is the time for me to go from B550 boards and go up to the X570s. You know what I mean? And so I figured I'm, what do you call it? Future proofing, if you will. Because, AMD normally give you like a 3 or 4 year spread. Intel, I don't know what the hell Intel doing. I don't even think Intel know what Intel doing right about now. But y'all notice you can't get video cards. You can hardly get CPUs anymore.
Well, you know why there's a dearth of video cards, right?
Bitcoin mining.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of crappy. Like, well, these guys got bots. You know what I mean? So as soon as a card hit, their bot alerts them, and they'll buy up all these, the 30s, 70s, you know what I mean, and whatnot, and that. But then they turn out all their old cards onto eBay or the secondary sellers, and you see what used cards are going for. Or I'm like, are you? I got a manufacturer's edition GTX 2080, but I got it, when it was before all this crap, I
thought about doing that, and then it's just cost prohibitive at this point.
I know one guy that has it. You could, we walking up to, before we even went to the room, I'm like, dude, what is that noise? That's his mining machine.
He has a miner, or does he have video cards that he's
yeah, but I stopped counting. I counted at least 12 GTX 2080s, at least 12 of them. And I'm, dude, what in the hell? This is a mining thing. And that thing is humming. It is loud.
What's his electric bill like every month?
Yeah,
and that's what he was showing me. The Bitcoin, he said that's how you leverage it against what you're paying a kilowatt hour. That's why he moved here. He moved from Kansas to Texas. Well, that was he was going to move anyway. It was 3 different states he is going to go to. He really wanted to go back to Alabama, but Alabama's kilowatt hour is higher than Texas is because Texas has its own power grid. So he's using that much electricity where, you know what I mean, where it was more cost effective for him to move in the middle. I can't say middle of nowhere. He's in a rural part at the edge of a very large county where he can still get the internet service that he need. He said, hell, they need to bring the T1 lines back over to this area. All I need is 4 of them and I'd be set.
You know what? That makes sense, because a lot of places you can't do that on the East Coast. I mean, East Coast, Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, you're looking at anywhere between 16 to 21 cents per kilowatt hour, and that's just cost prohibitive.
It's 7.9 right now here.
Well, that's he didn't have if you're thinking about the idea on the East Coast and you go to Texas, you've over half.
You cut your power bill in half.
Yeah. So,
dude, my light bill for my offices, I got workstation, my own NAS now, and 5 standalones, printers, fax machine. Yeah, because in the transportation business, fax machine ain't gonna go away in this line of business.
It's not.
Because they want that bill of lading. They want something with an actual signature on it. That digital. Sign it and fax it back. And my light bill for the month to run everything out there, all my lights, coffee pots, refrigerators, everything. My light bill averages $410 a month.
Damn. When you look at a single family home in this area, you're going to look at about 180, anywhere from 120 to $180 a month. And you're just running just a single family home, refrigerator, computers, television, whereas you're running, I don't even know the square footage, or
it's 28 foot 28 foot by it's 72 foot long and 28 feet wide.
Yeah. I mean that's pretty cheap.
My home electricity with everything, computers, I got you all to see all the shit I got in my house. And the people here, my light bill is under $200 a month.
Okay.
For my house with everything that I got running here. What kind of money is he making? He really wouldn't tell me Odinga, and I can understand if I was him. Not that I have any interest in it, but if I was him, I probably wouldn't have told me either. But I figure for him to upgrade, to pay me to do some to put in 2 patch bays and what did I put in? I think I changed 10 power supplies, 10,000 watt, 10 1,000 watt power supplies. He had to be making something because I ain't cheap. I ain't super expensive, but I ain't cheap. I tell people, and that was it. Now, and that's I don't see and plus also something else I was told that impacted this is this Corona thing, because people have to work from home, and a lot of newscasts you watch now, and I'm like, is she in a hotel room? You know what I mean? Or, like they're, I guess everything is internet late now. Now you still got to have your gumshoe on the ground to go out there to the scene of the accident and stand there with a microphone. I mean, that guy, the boots on the ground ain't going away. But for the normal stuff, they gone to that. So the market is, I mean, there's nothing out there. You go to Newegg, you go to B&H, you go to Micro Center, they're all gone.
And it may not. Speaking of the coronavirus, when this pandemic ends, whether you think it should be a pandemic or not, a lot of companies, they may revisit the idea of allowing their employees to work from home, because now they're seeing that they have a lower real estate bill or lower rental office space rental.
Correct.
But they're still getting the same level of productivity out of their employees. So why return to the office to collaborate when you can collaborate online via Zoom and other collaborative tools? So it'll be interesting to see how things shake out.
I was seeing recently where they're starting to do a lot more interviews via the web. Like for instance, they'll give you questions, and then you can record the video, record yourself answering those questions, and then you send it back, and then they go through and listen to all the people that applied, watch the video of the person, how they respond, how they interact on camera, and they make decisions based on those type of interviews nowadays.
I had not learned that. I know the last interview I had back in October, it was done via Zoom, but it wasn't asynchronous where they sent me questions and then I answered them and sent them back. And everything was synchronous in real time. They're asking me a question, and then they ask you a couple of logic questions, and then hell, they even had me write a little bit of code on a shared coding platform. I didn't expect that, but it's what it is. But a lot of these interviews are going to go online now. I think a lot of work is going to take place online. I mean, let's think about it. If you have happier employees, you're going to have more productive employees. Shit, if I got to wake up at some ungodly hour and I got to commit myself to a 90-minute commute, be in a freaking cubicle all day, and then deal with the commute home, I'm not very happy. But if I'm home and I can work my own schedule, then I'm happy and I'm going to be more productive. When I get done,
I'm quite sure somebody watching them production numbers, though. Somebody got to be watching them.
Well, some people abuse it, of course, but you summarily get rid of them when they abuse it, working from home, because the main thing that prohibits many more employees from working from home is trust. Employers just don't trust that employees are going to be as productive at home, and some of them won't.
Yeah, and rightfully so, because I'm quite sure both of you guys can work with people where you may not say nothing, but you like it's only a matter of time that some bitch gonna get fired.
Yeah.
Because you know they jacking up. You know they jacking up, but that ain't your position. You know what I'm saying? Because some people, when somebody's screwing up real bad, I know I ain't got to do nothing. I ain't got it, because if I see it, the hierarchy sees it, and it's only a matter of time.
Well, if you haven't deduced, I'm a big fan of working from home. Shit, if I never see the inside of a cubicle or an office again, I'm good.
Yeah,
see me, I gotta bounce, because when you own up running impound yards, and that's something else where fax machines never go down. When that cop writes up that inventory and he writes everything and this, that, and other, and it goes and it's faxed to the municipal authority that we get that told us to pick it up. It's faxed to Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, their vehicle storage facility. People sign when like you come to your car. Hopefully you guys have never had a vehicle impounded, but but a lot of people don't know when you go to, and every state has their own laws. Like in Oklahoma is different from Texas, blah, blah, blah. You come over here. I had an accident. I need to see if I need to get my glasses out of my car, charger for my phone, and my laptop's in the trunk. Okay, we got this. You know what I'm saying? and we write on there what you took. If it has a serial number, we write it and you sign it. And you get a copy, and we send a copy through to the municipal authority that had us pick it up, because we both know there's a lot of good, honest people out here. I really do believe the average person that we come across in life is at least decent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would like to assume that.
But there is, the average. But we know there's always that jackanape out here. You know what I'm saying? That's just waiting to say, well, where's my laptop? You know what I'm saying? Where's my laptop? Well, I had a laptop in here. I had a 20-carat diamond ring in a 79 Ford F-150. But you can't just say, man, get the hell out. I can't. Man, just get the hell out of here, because we're a state licensed facility. Mm-hmm. So we have to go through all that stuff. And I got your signature. Nothing digitally. It's not digital. You had to say, you're standing in front of this camera, because there's a camera here and a camera there. You stood right here in front of this camera and signed it, and the camera watched you go out there with one of the employees to the vehicle to get the stuff out. Because some of this stuff, you're talking thousands of dollars of stuff people be trying to claim. But then when we turn that in, and they say, okay, sir, then if you saying that ain't your signature, then you need to sue them for forgery. And you know they ain't, you know what I'm saying? That we're done, because how the hell would we know what your signature looks like? And that's why in this line of business, the fax machine and the copying machine, it ain't going away. And the state of Texas requires us to keep that stuff on file for years. You ought to see our data storage room of police impound sheets that the cop is filling out when, you know what I mean, when he's standing next to the vehicle at an accident scene or somebody get 4 years. The state requires us to keep it on file.
Are you audited for that? Do you have like a state auditor come by and say, let me see what you got?
Yeah, and they randomly, this is what they do. They say, give me your second week of October of 2019. And you go to it and you pull it out and you hand it to them, and they sit down. You know what I mean? And they just randomly pick, or they'll go out into your impound yard and say, they'll write down the license plate off of this blue Ford pickup. They want to see the file on that one. And that's the way it's done, because it is random, because so many vehicles come in and out and in and out, in and out. They would need an army of people to sit there, you know what I mean, and do it all day. every day. So they will randomly pick about 20 files, and they'll do it that way. And like I say, but liability in this world today, and like I said, in the trucking department, because people don't realize it. And I know MOT's probably gone. That tractor trailer that's riding down the freeway next to you. Now, if it's a fuel tanker, you know it's fuel. If it's a water tanker, you know it's water, right? You know what I mean? But if it's just a dry box, you don't know what's in there. And there's a lot of money that's in some of these trucks. And I tell people, you see the Neiman Marcus fur department? Yeah, how do you think them furs got to the store? They didn't, they're not pulling lynx and minks out of the floor and killing them and skinning them. They came there on a truck. And that's these diamond jewelry stores. That stuff came on a truck. So ain't no telling what's in that truck right next to you. And that stuff is insured for millions of dollars. And you will sign that form before anything leaves this office. We need a John Hancock before anybody leaves here. If not, the state says we don't have to release it without a signature. But I'm gonna let y'all go. Any closing statements from? I'll take closing statements from y'all. Anything y'all want to say that I didn't cover, and then we'll be out of here.
No, I just say keep learning. Always try to learn something new every day. Be better than you were yesterday. That's all I have.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. But I did see a question earlier that I wanted to say something on.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was it?
Nah, it's fine. Kubernetes.
Yeah.
Somebody asked about that in the chat, and I was just going to say that is a good area to start looking into, containers. And just to throw something out there, Netflix, one of the biggest video providers out right now, they use a container platform. I think it's called,
I found it,
Titus, or I don't know. I can't remember the name of it, but I know they use a containerized way of sharing their videos online. And basically what a container is, it's just a way to quickly spin up a small almost virtual machine without the hypervisor. It's basically running from the OS. Pretty much how it actually runs, like majority of the OS or the kernel is ran, is using the current, is sharing the kernel, and pretty much it's just a way to quickly spin up a system that containerize whatever script or whatever. I don't know. It could be a video like what Netflix does, to push out that information over the web. So that's all I wanted to say on that. But I definitely appreciate you, Nick, for doing this. We could do this again. You know what I'm saying? Just let me know.
Because without y'all, I don't. Because I'll go back, just like the last one we did. I went back and I watched it at least 3 times.
Yeah.
Because that's how I retain repetition, right? Repetition. That's how I learn. And BA is the reason, because I bounced off of him in full earnest. I didn't say nothing to you. I bounced off of him about me having my own in-house server, and he told me the pros and cons, cost versus, the cloud, but security, because, it's in-house, but, at this cost and whatnot. Then I figured like this. Well, I talked to my insurance chick and I asked her, what is that out of all the people you got for data insurance? Because, you can get insurance for your data. I said, what's your average payout? What's your average deal? She had she couldn't give me an exact number, but she said it hovers around $40,000. So I figure and I looked up what this server was going to cost me, and it was a little under $20,000. So you know what I mean? I'm getting in-house insurance for less than half of what I got to pay her for, hoping I don't need.
Mm-hmm.
So because you got to literally break into my place. Good luck with that. Finding it. Good luck with that. Trying not to get shot in a state of Texas where and everybody here is I'm in that part of Texas. Everybody carries. So is the data for my company worth that much to you? Because you're going to have to go through from the time you break in through that electric razor wire gate to get in a building that you need a code to get in, and then find a server and get it out. You done had to go past at least 7 guns. Oh, and did I forget that if you walk out to the street, you can see the sheriff's department from our from my building. Did I leave that part out? You can see it with your naked eye when you walk out to the main drag. Good luck with that. So I'm like, let me go. And that's why I built it. With his information though.
Mm-hmm.
With the feedback that he gave me. Because I think he's not trying to sell me nothing. So I can, because you ask, Micro Center, they're trying to sell you something. They're not trying to convince you not to buy something. So he didn't have a vested interest in trying to upsell me. And that's why I done it. And so far I love it. But that's it. I appreciate both of y'all. Damn it.
Not a problem.
Not a
do
problem.
it again in the future.
Yeah, when something, when this, because I'll tell you the first thing, I don't know a damn thing about Bitcoin. And my buddy, I don't want to know, like, to do it. I just wanted to know what it was. You know what I mean?
Don't feel bad. I don't know much about it myself.
I don't know. I know how to spell it.
Well,
I know what the logo looks like. That's about all. And my buddy, he's into it, but he's jet set. So and the thing is, he's an Army guy. He was an infantry officer. He was an infantry officer. Wow. Now he got his own freaking. But it's the money he made because he ran a small contracted company that signed up under Titan XE over in the desert, and government conjure, how that money, but he put it to good use. You know what I mean? Because he ain't married, he don't have kids, what I'm saying, and retired infantry officer, and he built that farm.
Yeah, the key to that is power.
Yes.
Power.
And that's yep. And he said he wanted to go back to Alabama, but he came to Texas because the kilowatt hour is cheaper.
Hey, I may have to look into that because I had thought about taking out a home equity line of credit and building a Bitcoin, a cryptocurrency farm. And, I did the reading on it and everything. To one of my coworkers, say, "Hey, man, did you consider power in this neck of the woods?" I had not, and then once I did the research, I was like, "This is cost prohibitive." But
yeah. And that fella sitting on the other side of you, he know during the hurricane, hell, when they got kicked off the grid, even though Rita smashed up, Southeast Texas pretty bad too, but our grid stayed up. And it took, I don't know why, and not getting off on this. You think the governor of Louisiana, the first thing when that thing hit her desk to sign to get grid power from the state of Texas until they built it back up, you figure that would have been a no-brainer. Why did it take her over a week to sign that? That tells me I don't give a fuck that y'all ain't got electricity. It took her over Kathleen Blanco. That was her name. Yep. Took her over a week to sign it because our grid was up. The Texas grid never went down. It got beat up in some spots, but it was never down.
Mm-hmm.
And but I guess man, we got the wrong people doing the wrong. They ain't looking out for the people. Anyway, I'm done. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all very much. I'm gonna when this renders and goes up, I'll rewatch it again because I'm quite sure I'm gonna learn. I always learn something, and we'll do this again.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks,
good
y'all.
talking to you, Black Avenger, again, man.
Yeah,
and Nick, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, look at that road, Mike. Look at that road.
Oh yeah.
You got the whole panel?
Nah, this is just
the mic.
Yeah, well, I got
But I know,
a
what's
you talking about the arm, the boom arm?
no, the
Right.
Roadmaster where it got the push button thing for all the different stuff and the sound effects and the
Oh yeah.
screen
Well,
pop,
no,
that
I
whole
didn't get
Rode
that.
thing.
Nah, I didn't get that. I didn't have a need for it because I don't live stream that often.
Yeah.
So
I want to
until I get
do
to the point, I
more
do that.
because
Yeah.
I got a full setup. I got a
Hmm.
full setup. I got mixing board. I got everything. I got multiple mics. I got 3 cameras. Now I'm only using one, but I
Yeah.
have 3 cameras. I got to do my green screen. I got to do, but that's stuff that's down the road, and I want to do it.
Hmm.
But anyway, hey, thank all of y'all for coming out. Thank you guys for all your question. What Odinga say? Bitcoin went up 9% today at $36. I don't even know what that means, but I'm quite sure it means something. I just don't know what it means. But I appreciate you, brother, and your wealth of knowledge, man.
Oh yeah, no problem. Peace.
And
Peace out, Nick.
same thing, BA. I know you gone, but brother, I sure appreciate you. Bye,
All
y'all.
right then, Nick.
Bye. Oh, comment, rate, share, subscribe. KeepItTechie's YouTube channel. His link is in the description. I mean, in the box there. But if you put KeepItTechie in your YouTube search bar there, Josh will pop up. Bye, y'all.